The battlefield was a grid of black and red squares, a world trapped in two dimensions. The Red King had long been a figure of power, his crown shining as a beacon for his troops. Yet, the war turned grim. Piece by piece, his forces fell, leaving him alone amidst an encroaching sea of enemies. When his last soldier was captured, the Red King had only one thought: escape through death. He charged into the enemy lines with reckless abandon, hoping for a swift end. But the Black forces, calculating, sadistic, did not grant him that release. Instead, they disarmed him, encircled him, and claimed his remaining territories square by square. Now the game board was silent, but for the Red King, the nightmare had just begun. Stripped of his purpose, he wandered the grid aimlessly, stepping onto squares where his adversaries could easily strike him down. Yet, they did not. They merely watched, an impenetrable wall of ebony and malice. "I surrender," the Red King cried, his voice echoing across the board. "Do what you must." But his pleas were met with cold, hollow silence. His enemies seemed to relish his torment, watching him unravel, square by agonizing square. The king began to lose himself. He imagined the lines between the squares rising up, trapping him in a cage. The smooth tiles beneath his feet seemed to shift, the red turning to the color of blood, the black to the void of despair. His once proud crown felt like a shackle. One night, the king devised his escape. He would leave the game entirely. Climbing to the edge of the board, he stared into the infinite abyss beyond the grid. It called to him, promising an end to his torment. But just as he prepared to leap, the enemy pieces shifted. The Black King emerged, his shadow a towering monolith, his voice a deep rumble. "You cannot leave," the Black King declared. "You are part of the game, and the game is eternal." The Red King recoiled as unseen forces dragged him back to the center square. The board itself trembled, as if alive, feeding on his despair. The edges of the grid blurred, transforming into a vast, endless checkerboard where his suffering would play out over and over again. His scream echoed into the void, but there was no one left to hear.